Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our 26th CAF update. Hard to imagine we have actually made it to the halfway year mark, and couldn't be prouder. I'm glad you guys have hung out with me along the way. It's been a learning process, and it's been a lot of work. And so tonight, we're going to go over our usual CAF data, and I'm going to do a bit of a year-end recap with and show off a brand new report that I put together, Maureen put together after, following my instructions. But before we get started, I did want to note the passing of artist Steve Lytle. I actually never got to meet Steve, but I've always admired his work a great deal. And news came out today on social media that he had passed of heart complications. And I saw a lot of tributes from many collectors whom I've got a lot of respect for and who clearly knew him very well. And you could tell, there was a lot of disappointed people today. And I, just reading through them, I felt the same. It's not the way we wanted to start off this year for sure, on a really disappointing note. And everybody was really looking forward to 2021 being a lot more fun and joyful. So, I kept thinking things can only get better, and I'm going to continue to think that things can only get better. But I do encourage everybody to, visit CAF, do some searches for Steve's artwork, and, and leave some comments, because he was an incredible talent, and he's definitely going to be missed by many of you. So, sorry, like I said, there's enough sadness in the world that we don't need to have something else that kind of brings us down to kind of get things going. But thank you, Johnny, for the words of encouragement. And I'm going to continue to try to do a fantastic job. We're still learning, that's for sure. But I wanted to kind of just jump into the stats and things today for last week's recap, mostly because I want to have some extra time to go over the report we put together and some year-end facts and figures that I thought would be useful. And at the end of it all, if there's things that you'd like to know data-wise about CAF that, we don't provide on the site that, I can provide you with, that you might, in other words, more reporting, more searching that might pull out some artworks that you might have missed otherwise. I'm always open to suggestions. I think that, there's always things that we overlook, certainly in the programming. And so I'm always shocked by the new ideas that pop into my head when I'm having a conversation with someone. So, but I did want to let everybody know before we get started too, that next week is really busy as far as doing some live streams. On Tuesday, we're going to do essentially a George Harriman / Crazy Cat conversation. I've got author Michael Tisserand and collectors Rob Stolzer, Glenn Gold, and artist collector Patrick McDonald. They're all going to be taking part in it. I'm just going to moderate. They're going to just be talking about Harriman's life and his contributions to strip art in the early 20th century. And, it should be interesting. Like I said in the last couple of episodes, we want to try to do things a little bit differently, not always do interviews. So that's our focus. We want to do a bit more different things. And if you've got ideas, I'm all ears. On Wednesday, I am going to be chatting with collector Jason D'Ambrosia, and that should be a lot of fun. He's always in the chat, usually during the week, and we've talked a few times, so it'll be a good conversation. And on Thursday, I've got two other collectors that'll be part of next week's CAF update. They are Shane Simek and Eric Ozier, and they're both Northeast Ohioans, so another group of Ohio collectors, and their primary focus is convention sketches. So that's going to be a definite area that we haven't talked about before, so it should be a lot of fun. So you're not going to be seeing published pieces for certain when we're talking about their artwork. It'll mostly be, sketches and those sorts of things. It'll be fun. Definitely be a lot of fun. So no guests tonight either. Obviously, we had Albert Moy last night for the Comic Art Spotlight. That was a lot of fun. If you didn't see it, I definitely. And there I just see a comment from Ron. He said, "I'm so behind. I need to watch the Albert Moy episode." Definitely. Albert came into it. Albert doesn't like doing anything online, and he said, it was like he's going to do an hour, and we ended up doing 2 hours. So yeah, it was a really, really, really fun conversation, because I've known Albert since I started collecting, but he was collecting for as long as I've known him. He started collecting right around 83. So, and I didn't meet him until 98. And so, yeah, lots of good stories. And I learned a few things that I've always been curious about. So, other than that, yeah, that was, but it was fun. So we had a good time. So you should definitely check that out. So as far as stats go, let's just jump right into the sales reports for last week. And of course, again, happened over the New Year's holiday. So in general, sales, were a little bit down, but nothing, the auction report actually is pretty normal. Let's start with dealers. Dealers were at 267,000 in sales, and that was compared to 235,000 in sales for the prior week. I guess it's 269. I can't read my own notes. This first piece is a Captain America 194 title page. Jack Kirby, Frank Giacoia, sold for $20,000 on RemitaMan.com. And similarly, another Jack Kirby, Frank Giacoia piece. This is from Tales of Suspense, number 86, page 7. Sold for $18,500 by Mike Berkey as well. Next up is, this is actually from Felix, and he must have finally completed the transaction from those NAACP benefit auctions he did. This is a Paul Pope Batman Year 100 piece, sold for $17,250. This next piece was sold by Albert Moy for $15,000 as its asking price. It's an Exo Man of War issue number 2 cover by Barry Windsor Smith and Bob Layton. I love that cover. That's a great one. And these next 2 pieces are also from Felix. This is from one of his recent auctions. It's a Nick Tragrota Batman Black and White piece for the Lou Family Fund that he has had ongoing. And I believe his last auction is now, that one sold for $12,500. And this is for a pair of Spider-Man pieces by Trad Moore, again from the NAACP benefit auction. The pair sold for $12,000. So Felix has been doing an incredible amount of charity auctions, and I've always been very supportive of everything he's got going. He's an incredible guy, and I always encourage people to check those things out because he's done a lot of good for a lot of people, and I think he's going to continue to do that. So my hat's off to Felix, and so that those things have added to our sales figures, and it's always interesting to see too, because those are handled by Felix as auctions, and he does it through Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Just collects the bids, and then gives people a deadline to get their bids in, and they end up getting in our reports when he completes them. So next up is the auction reporting, and this is the first. Remember, we took last week off from Heritage so we can get everything synced up with their Monday, because our schedule has always been Monday through Sunday, and so this now gets Heritage back into the reports with eBay. And so this week the total sales from auctions was $206,000, and that's up from $179,000 from last week. This first piece is from eBay. It was a Barry Windsor Smith Conan piece, sold for $8,200. Next up from eBay is it's a piece by Brian Stelfreeze. It sold for $8,000. This is a Batman Shadow of the Bat number 30 original cover, and it's a beauty. One of these days I'll own something from Brian. I love his work. And I believe this was the last Mike Mignola charity auction that he had been running throughout the year. This is a ink piece, of course, and it sold for $7,900. These next 3 pieces are from Heritage. This is an Alex Raymond Rip Kirby strip. It sold for $2,880. I'd like to get a Alex Raymond piece one day myself. This is a Tales of Sinestro Corps Superman Prime number 1 cover by Ethan Van Sciver, sold for just under $2,000. And I believe that second piece is from some kind of a variant stat that was used for, or a variant original piece for cover up. This last piece was a Jose Luis Garcia Lopez Dead Man number 2 story page from page 15, 1986, sold for $1,320. So it was a little bit of a down week, but it was odd. Heritage seemed to have about half of the normal inventory that they normally would. I think they had 146 closed auctions, whereas normally they would be somewhere around 210, 220. So I expect that to be more normal next week. So we'll see. As far as the popular artworks go, I wanted to go through that. And this, I was thinking that I was going to see a lot of pieces that were added to our best of competition that submissions start on Sunday, by the way. So, but because so many of the people were adding artwork at the last minute, then they didn't really get into the way I searched through to find the pieces to feature. And that's probably for the best, because at the end of the day, I wanted to do a special best of episode from just that competition. And so that's good. So I'm going to run through the pieces that I picked out from last week, starting with this Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo piece, Spawn number 95 cover. It's from the year 2000, collection of Dino Mauricio, who will be on our show early February, actually. Next up is this Stephen Butler Silver Sable and the Wild Pack number 21 cover. This is in the collection of Paul P. This is by P. Aguera, and this is in the collection of Robert C. It's a Why the Last Man number 29 page, page 18, actually. And if we've seen this before in some sales and whatnot, this is the Bernie Wrightson piece from Swamp Thing number 1, page 21. This is in the collection of Glenn Crane. Absolutely fabulous piece. Can't give any better than that if you want a great Wrightson example. And this, of course, is from the collection of Jim Warden. This is the X-Men Dinosaur Stampede John Byrne commission that we saw during Jim's interview a few weeks back. Here's a piece by Tim Sale. This is, let's see, this is from Daredevil Yellow in the collection of Xavier, and just a fabulous piece. And this is a painting by Ken Kelly in the collection of my good friend Kirk Dilbeck. Title of this one is The Hour of the Dragon. And Nick Barucci, he was really winning the week last week. This is a fantastic piece by John Romita Jr. and Al Williamson. This is the cover to Daredevil 256, third appearance of Typhoid Mary. Next up is this great Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito piece, collection of Soren Marsner. This is from Amazing Spider-Man number 163 from 1976, 40 plus years old. And this is from Amazing Adventures number 5. It's the title page. It's owned by Sean Clark, and it's by Gene Colan and Bill Everett. And it's a beauty. What a great combination there. And here we have a Alex Raymond, Flash Gordon Sunday, and a Jungle Jim topper piece. So I thought this was great. This was in the collection of Monty B. And a rare piece on CAF is a John Byrne Iron Fist page. You don't see too many of these. This is in the collection of Julian B. This was from Iron Fist 13, and it was page 22. Next up is a Daredevil piece from the Kevin Smith run. This is also in Xavier's collection. This is from Daredevil 4. This is, of course, Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. Absolutely beautiful there. And finally, this is a piece by John Romita Jr. and Dan Green. It's from Uncanny X-Men number 197 in the collection of Kareem El Rafai. And I think I said it right. I think I've said his name once before. So there you go. Those were my picks for the best of pieces from last week. And again, everybody needs to just kind of, I'll make some kind of announcement, probably post it as news, but on Sunday, we will turn on the best of submission process, and everybody will have about a week to submit their pieces to that. Remember, there's a limit of 5. There's plenty of categories, and there'll be a page that lists every piece of artwork that you added to CAF in 2020, and you'll be able to pick the piece and pick the category that you want to assign it to. And I forget the deadline from Brian. I'll double check that and have that in the news post. But it's at least a week, probably a little bit more. And then the day after the submission period's over, we'll start up the voting process. And I have talked to Maureen. We'll try to make the voting process a little easier. I know that everybody always complained about both processes, and we fixed the one last year. We'll try to make voting a little bit easier for you, and we should be able to do that. I run that Infected by Art contest, and we have jurors for that, and it's all online, and we have a very, very nice, robust voting system in there. So there's no reason why I can't carry some of that programming over and let people on CAF enjoy it as well. So let's see. I rock. All right, I do rock sometimes. So does Maureen. We always try to take care of everybody and do a good job and do it right. So I did want to, so what we're going to do as far as the stats are, I'll put the link up for the search that we put together a little bit later, probably towards the end, and then I'll show you some of the results. And I'm not going to link this search into the site yet because I still want to clean it up a little bit. And I think that there's some search speed optimization things that I can do in it. It's really great for most things, but when you do like an across all categories, it gets a little slow. Still doesn't time out or crash or anything like that, but I'd like it to run a little bit faster. So I'm going to hold off on making it available to everybody. But for those of you tuning in and who watch it later, you'll get to try these things out. And I think you'll be happy. I've really enjoyed messing around with it myself because there's just a lot of good data out there that I didn't know. I kind of forget about stuff on CAF a lot, and it isn't until we kind of think out of the box and come up with some creative ways to look at things that you realize that CAF has a lot of cool stuff on it. And so let me just go ahead and give you stats on dealer sales for 2020 and put that into a bit of perspective. Now, of course, these are dealer sales that we track only. So it's not every art dealer on the planet. It's only the ones that I host because those are the only ones that I can get confirmed sales from. But I put in 2020, 2019, and 2018 so everybody can kind of see. And as you can see, in 2020, there were just over $12 million in sales from 10,663 unique sales. And you can compare that to 2019, where there was almost half that, 6.5 million sales and just under 6,000 unique sales in our database. And again, compare that to 2018, which was pretty comparable to 2019. There was just over $5 million in sales and 4,680 unique sales. And I can tell you that we really didn't build a lot of dealer sites in this 3-year period. I mean, we always add a couple every year. Probably the dealer that would have made the biggest impact between 2019 and 2020 would have been Panel Page Art, Glenn's site. But it certainly didn't make a $5.5 million dent in it. So what this shows us is certainly that without conventions, we're seeing a lot more people buying from original art dealers through their websites. And with 2021 shaping up to be how it is, I would expect to see this trend continue. And like we talked with Albert last night, he had 8 or 9 shows lined up for 2020. And he wasn't planning on making any updates hardly to his website. And what's he been doing? He's been doing these huge art drops pretty much every month. So dealers have changed their approach to marketing themselves, and it's to their benefit. I mean, I don't think it's not like the artwork's any different, and the artwork is certainly not increased in value by 45%. But we can see from these stats that clearly, dealers are doing pretty well without cons. I mean, we all want them back, but art's still getting sold, and dealers are still making money to put food on the table. So I was going to go over the top 10 sales as well from dealers, and first up is this piece. It's Iron Man Submariner #1. It's by Everett and Colin again, and I've seen this piece. It was in New York Comic Con. It was sold by Ramita Man. Asking price was $400,000. If you'd seen it, you'd also know that it was like one of the cleanest pieces you've ever seen. I mean, it was almost like it had never been handled. It's such a beautiful piece. I do know that there was some consternation out there whether or not this a sale and if it was a real and it was probably trade. And I can tell you that it was a cash sale. It probably wasn't for $400,000, as most dealer sales are usually not at the asking price. But at the end of the day, that was indeed the case. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this was probably one of the coolest pieces that I've seen in the last year and a half, and it's in a great collection today. Next up is this piece, also sold by Ramita Man. It was, of course, Barry Windsor Smith, Conan Saga #1. The asking price on this one was $75,000. This page was sold by Panel Page Art. It's Avengers 40 cover. This is Don Heck, and the asking price on this piece again was $75,000. Next up, this was sold by Albert Moy, And this was a Detective Comics number 1000 wraparound cover, of course, by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. And the price on this when it was sold was $60,000. Next up is this Marvel Tales 229 cover. Todd McFarlane, of course, sold by Ramita Man as well. Asking price on this when it was sold in September was $58,000. Now, this is another panel page art sale. This is the cover to Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 15 by Frank Miller, sold in September for $55,000. This is a Brave and the Bold number 58 cover. This is from 1964, Ramona Fredone and Charles Paris. This was sold in November by Ramita Man as well for an asking price of $53,000. Now, this was the King in Black issue, issue number 1. This is the cover image, of course. This was sold as a complete issue by Felix just a few weeks ago on December 14th, and it sold complete, cover included, for $50,000. And definitely a high watermark for a complete issue sale. And Felix keeps leading the way. I mean, that's it's an amazing story. The art inside, by Ryan Stegman is just fantastic, and definitely, a great buy. And I'm sure the owner's really happy to have it. Next up is this piece by George Perez. Of course, it's JLA number 192. This was sold by Will's Comic Art, comicartpage.com, and it was sold in July. The asking price was $48,000. Next up is this Captain America 200 title page splash. This is by Jack Kirby, of course, $45,000 asking price, sold in June, end of June, by Panel Page Art. And I could tell you some of the other pieces, but everything else was around $45,000 and down. But again, as you can see from the stats, there was just a lot of sales and really busy year for dealers. So next up is the auction houses for the year, and they of course include only, well, I can't say only, but they primarily include Heritage and eBay. I did bring in some profiles in history data, and I believe some of Russ Cochran's auctions as well. But as far as the brunt of the sales data, it's all Heritage and eBay. And you can see here, I mean, even though there's just a slight increase, and this is the kind of growth that you would normally expect to see. I think, in 2020, there's just over 48 million in total sales. I didn't break it out between Heritage and eBay. I believe I did run a report on that just for my own edification. And if I'm not mistaken, eBay sales were somewhere in the $17 to $19 million of that, with Heritage being closer to $30 million in that. And as you can see, that was for just over 60,000 unique sales that we tracked. And, again, a slight increase over the year before. You can see that the sales themselves are pretty consistent between years, between, 2020, 2019, and 2018. Just the prices slightly going up. So not, a crazy leap in sales there, but, there were a lot of records made as far as sale prices that were realized for different artists. And the 10 pieces that I picked were all from Heritage. This is a John Romita Sr. cover. This is to Amazing Spider-Man 51 from 1967, of course. This sold in March for $312,000. And next up is a Frank Frazetta book cover piece. This sold for $300,000 by Heritage, and it happened on May 3rd. Next up is a Jim Lee Scott Williams piece, sold recently, of course, in November for $300,000. This is the cover to Uncanny X-Men 268. If you did watch or will watch the episode last night with Albert, he said that back in the early 90s when Scott Doonbeer was still representing Jim Sales, he had the opportunity to buy this for $650, but $650, I should say, and he only had $500 in his pocket. So he did not walk away with this cover. He said he probably wouldn't still own it today, but you can take that $650 price tag from about 1991, 1992, and inflate that to the $300,000 price it realized just 2 months ago. And yeah, the art market is strong. Next up is this Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein piece, of course, and it sold for $240,000 in May on Heritage. This was a surprising result for this early Charles Schulz Peanuts piece from 1950. It sold for $192,000 in November in that same signature auction. And I wasn't expecting it to go that high, but a couple of people said it, it's definitely a rare piece, but $192,000 is a pretty steep price for that. And, I mean, it's just indicative of what we've seen sales-wise throughout the year. Next up is another John Romita and Mike Esposito piece. And this is Amazing Spider-Man number 41 Splash. This was sold in May for $180,000. And I know I don't pay too close attention all the time, but I do believe this is now in Mike Berkey's permanent collection. And also, this was a very often talked about piece, this Lee Elias Chamber of Chills number 19 cover. This sold in September for $174,000. And I mean, Lee's work is pretty incredible. And I wouldn't say I knew a lot about Lee as a creator, and I wasn't as familiar with his work. But after this auction was over, I did a lot more research on Elias, and he was just an incredible artist. And I'd encourage you to go back to CAF and do some searches on him, because you'll see some pretty amazing artwork. This is a Winsor McKay Little Nemo in Slumberland piece, early 1900s, of course. This sold for $168,000 last March on Heritage. A John Romita Sr. piece again. This is the cover to Hero for Hire number 1, and from 1972. So a 50-year-old piece. It's starting to make all of us feel really old. This was sold in March and another Heritage signature auction, and it sold for $156,000. And the 10th auction piece that I'm going to show off is this Carl Barks Memory Pond painting from 1994, sold in May for $156,000. Now, with auctions, I mean, I could have gone on and on and on. I mean, the 11th piece, and I'm kind of looking at it in the side screen here, was that Brian Bolland Killing Joke page that sold for $156,000. Then there was the Jack Kirby, Paul Reinman, X-Men number 4 title page that sold for $132,000. I mean, there was just a lot of fantastic original art sales this year, and Heritage was really the driving force behind them. And not reported in our stuff, of course, were the incredible sales that Comic Link did in their last featured auction of the year. And I know that Comic Connect realized a few good prices as well in their last event auction. But those ones aren't included in my report, so I don't include those in anything that we do reporting-wise, unfortunately. I hope Danzig also owns that Lee Elias piece. He certainly should. And it's funny, we've seen Danzig in two photos in the last 2 big interviews we did with Jim Warden and Albert Moy, right? I mean, because Danzig was always in San Diego and always picking up a lot of art when he wasn't running his own booth, which of course he hasn't done in the last several years. I think I was my first San Diego was probably when I don't even know, 2003, 2004, and that might have been one of the last times that I saw him there. But I want to get you over to this report, and I'll just pull this thing up and replace my name with what the link is. And I could actually, well, so if I paste it in the comments, whatever, I'll paste it in the comments. That way, anybody who ends up watching this can really just click on a link and gain access to it as well. I'll put that in the chat, and I'm just going to kind of replace most of me here by the search itself. So, I thought about what I started to do was I tried to go in, because I thought, all right, I'm going to show everybody the coolest artwork that's been added to CAF in 2020, which is something I've never done. But I've thought, since we're doing an end of the year report, that would be ideal, right? And what I found was it's almost impossible to make to kind of come up with like, this was the most important piece of artwork, or even the top 10, because as you know, at least the way I've looked at it, views are a very subjective element in what makes art popular. When you look at CAF and you order a search result by views, a lot of times, you're going to get stuff that were in the classifieds, because in a week-to-week basis, when I do this CAF update, I don't really even look at the most viewed artwork. And that's because most of the artwork is for sale. It's somebody promoting, new artwork they've got. So of course it's going to get a ton of views. So most views really isn't indicative of the great artwork that's out there for a week. So when I'm doing my picks, I really look at comments, I look at likes. And so when I set out to do this report, what I finally came up with was, if you look at this thing, it basically is a report that organizes everything by the date it was added to CAF. So when you first go to it, it's going to show you the current month and the current year. And what it does is it's going to break out the results by the first set of results are most commented pieces. So it's going to show you, whatever, and of course showing all art types. The cool thing about this is you can filter by art type and then pick your month and your year, and it's going to show you artwork that matches that criteria. And I'll give you some examples on that in a few minutes. But so just in general, for this month alone, if we were looking at January, it's going to show you the most commented pieces, then it's going to show you the most liked pieces. And sometimes there's going to be crossover and sometimes there won't. But then if we get down into the views, that's where things get a little different. And you start seeing, some pieces that are actually for sale, like this one. It's probably in the classifieds and it's, again, it's offered for sale, but it's probably not in the most commented, right? It's got 0 comments. So, and it has no likes, or the likes field would have been there. So that's kind of why I decided to order it by comments first as a set, and then by likes, and then put views at the bottom. And so if we wanted to look at 2020, and here's like another reason why I don't want to show this thing yet. I've got to invert this list the way that Maureen put it together. She's got it going backwards. So if I were to pick 2020, I could set it to all months, and here we'll see how slow this thing is. But and so that was actually what I was going to do initially. I was going to put together a really nice, fun, report that was like, all right, we're going to go and I'm going to pull the most commented pieces for the year. And then I realized, it's going to be weighted by results that were added earlier in the year, right? Because at the end of the day, it just doesn't work, because pieces that were added in March or April or January are always going to be at the top. So as you saw, that took about 10 seconds for it to run all months, all art types. But it's cool at the end of the day. It's really, it's interesting to see which pieces got the most comments for the year on CAF for pieces added in 2020. Bill J clearly had a banner year. He's got the number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6 commented pieces, 7, 8. And so again, and this is across board. This is all art types. And but when I looked at it, I was like, well, this isn't really a great way to make a report and pick pieces. Like, I can pick sales really easy, right? Top 10 sales are easy, but trying to pick top 10 artworks out of the CAF, not so easy. So I'm going to let you guys make your own decisions on what you think are those really cool artworks that were added during the year. Again, the likes end up sometimes being the same, but sometimes being a lot different. It's a lot easier to put a like on something than it is to put a comment on something. And, that's actually a stat I had put the slide together for that I didn't show. And so let me pull that up, because that was sort of interesting, I thought. For artwork added in 2020, these are like tidbits of data. From people who signed up in 2020, 330 people created a new gallery. So that's only like 1 a day. What does that tell me? That tells me CAF is pretty well saturated in the markets. I mean, we get about, trying to think what the sign-up figures are, usually around 10 signups a day. But a lot of those people sign up just because they want to communicate with other collectors, and they're not going out and creating galleries, because as we know, a lot of people like to just look at art, contact art, collectors and buy stuff, but they don't like to show their art. So that's I mean, I was kind of hoping for a higher figure when I asked Maureen to pull that data, but I'll take 330. It probably just means maybe I need to do a little bit better of focusing people on, the benefits of CAF and creating galleries. I mean, there are well over 15,000 active galleries on the site. So, you would still think that as a hobby, we are growing little by little and like to see it grow a little bit faster. Total artwork added in the year was 77,569. And I say that's added in the year. That really is added in the year and still active on the site, because more than likely there were probably more like 100,000 pieces of art added on CAF during the year. I mean, we typically average 250 to 300 pieces of art added every day. A lot of that goes into the classifieds for our premium members. So when they get sold, that stuff gets pulled. But this is the figure of how many artworks were still live that were added in 2020. Now with comments and likes, I actually, everything's timestamped, so it's real easy to get a figure for that. And total comments for the year, just a little over the number of artworks added at 80,641, and total likes dished out was 114,020. So definitely that was a little eye-opening, because I actually thought there'd be more comments than likes, but I guess just making a simple click. I mean, that's probably why everybody loves Facebook, right? Just an easy way to kind of share the love is clicking on a like button. And we added it for that reason. I wanted a quick way to do that. Now, I mean, here would be a question for everybody that is watching now. And if you're watching later, leave a comment. Would it be, one of the things we don't do is let you know when people are liking your artwork, right? I mean, we don't, I don't send you any kind of tickler or reminder or, hey, X number of people liked your artwork today. Maybe it should be like a weekly summary, how many likes or comments you had. Maybe, just trying to think it through what would be the most reasonable way to kind of present something like that. But it's something that I tend to miss. I try to comment on a lot of pieces of artwork, and so people can like a comment too. And so those likes were just on art, by the way, of course. But so, but I never know that, you never get a, hey, so-and-so liked your comment. You get that on Facebook all the time. So if anybody has any comments on whether or not I should be trying to find ways to let people know when things of theirs are getting liked, whether it's comments or their artwork in their gallery, I think probably artwork in your gallery is a lot more important than likes on your comments. But give it some thought. It might be something that I think for me, it may be a daily like email that if you had any activity might be a good way to do it. There was one other bit of data that I pulled out that I wanted to show you. I forgot about that too. Keyword searches for the year. We store all of these as well. And I figured I'd break it into two categories, artists and just general miscellaneous. And I will say that these are for exact keyword searches. If somebody searched for Adam Hughes Wonder Woman 1,000 times, it's not counted in the Adam Hughes count. This is when the keywords that they searched on was just Adam Hughes or just, Bruce Timm or Frank Cho. Never Frank Cho with, I don't know, a character of choice, Harley or something. So it's not, it doesn't include that. It's only their names. I guess I could have done like some kind of a wild card search after I got these figures, and that would have been maybe a little bit more illuminating on how often Adam Hughes, for instance, gets searched. But, this actually mirrors like the month-to-month reports too. Daily reports and even hourly reports on keyword searches vary dramatically. But month in and month out, these are pretty typical. Adam Hughes, Bud Root, Bruce Timm, Frank Cho, Jim Lee, Arthur Adams, Milo Manera, Ed Bennis, Bill Ward, Simon Bisley, John Byrne, Alex Ross. I mean, that's you might swap in one or two other artists in a given month, and that's fairly consistent. And same thing with the miscellaneous keyword searches. Wonder Woman's almost always at the top. Batman, Star Wars, Supergirl cover as a generic keyword gets searched on a whole lot. And as you can see, just the rest, usually female characters. I know that's a trend on CAF. A lot of people looking at that. And yes, there you go, Chris. You hit the nail on the head right there. I think the next keyword left out of that was the word nude. So let's see. And Chris also mentions that I think the existing systems for likes works well, but I'm also on CAF a lot. That's true. I do have, and if I were to scroll up on my screen here, for those who don't know, we do actually show that information up here. So it shows you how many likes you have gotten since you last expanded this little, tab. So if you didn't know what those little things were for, now you do. You should definitely check that out. And also we have other things as far as, that's even email. There's a tickler in here for email if you haven't gone in and checked your email out in a while. So, CAF, and I get a lot of complaints about it. It's very true that, CAF is very unwieldy. There's just so much stuff there. And, we put that little tickler on the top there just to kind of make it easy for you to find those things out. If you weren't getting, your emails were getting spammed on you or something, we wanted to make sure you had little reminders. So we try. We definitely try. Jimmy C had a question, which I was just asked this not even a week ago by somebody else. Any talk of not counting reply comments from owners to boost total comments on a piece? And my answer to the person who asked me this a week ago, and the same answer, the same way I'd answer it today would be that, we already do a lot of heavy lifting to block people increasing their own views on their artwork, because everybody was always trying to, before we had a most comments page and a most likes page, all we had was most views, and we had people going out of their way to refresh their pages and get their artwork in that most views thing. So we had to write a lot of code to keep people from doing that. And I just don't want to it's just getting down in the weeds and having to recount everything. And I understand. To me, it's I don't think that people necessarily, and I know probably, the majority of the people that comment on, that reply to comments aren't doing it to get their stuff in the most comments. It does happen. There's certainly a couple artists that I would think do it, unfortunately, to get their pieces in the most comments. So my position of the moment would be I'd rather not write programming to rejigger all the comment counts on a million pieces of art, and then at the same time try to limit, the number of, because it would just look weird, right? I mean, a piece has two comments, one from the first commenter and another from the person saying, wow, one guy says baller, the owner of the art says, thanks, man. But the comment count shows one. It just wouldn't look right. It's like going to a forum and not seeing the right number of, replies to the post. So, I get it. I just personally don't feel that there are enough people abusing it to warrant rewriting so much programming to do that. I could be wrong. If I got a lot of hate mail about saying that, then I would certainly consider doing it. But for the time being, at least, that's the way I'm looking at it. If it ever got pervasive, where, and especially if for art for sale or something like that, I probably would have to feel like I'd have to step in and do something. But for the time being, I'd rather not. But anyways, kind of back to this sorting and searching thing that we've put together. It really is cool. And, for me, it's awesome to just go back and look at things in time. I can show you that if we sort on interior pages, just for most of the year, it's going to be a little bit faster. But the thing for me was once we built this, I started going back and looking at 2008 and seeing which covers were the most popular pieces. And here, hey, you can see that Jason Versace mischaracterized his art type because it's listed as an interior page, yet it's a cover. And so, we're always kind of stuck by how people assign their artwork. So it's really important to get it right. Not only get your art types in there right, but certainly also credit the creators. A lot of people kind of skip over that and just put the creator name in the title, and don't add it in the artist field. And we actually use the artist field exclusively for some of our searches. And so when it's left blank, artwork gets left out of some of our search results. So I definitely encourage everybody to make sure you fill in all the fields, double check how you assign your pieces, because you're going to end up with something like that. But again, taking the interior page concept and going back to July 2011, this search should be much faster, and it is. I haven't looked at this page, but again, for me, it's really cool because say you just want to look at covers, or you want to look at commissions, and you want to just thumb through the years to see what pieces, because these are pieces on CAF from 2011. How often have any of us gone back and looked at them? Hardly ever. And these are the most, these are the best ones. And I think right now I'm only bringing back 15 or 18 results per set. I might make that configurable for those of you who really want to like do deeper dives into, just research on NCAF and checking out what's there. But, definitely would encourage, see, there was a risque piece that our moderators need to go back and dig through. So at any rate, let me put the link up again so everybody's got it. I did put it in the comments. It said that on Facebook it didn't, there was an error. So I don't know if that this link got through to you guys or not, but it's comicartfans.com/comic_art and /stats by date. So give it a look over. If there's anything you think I should add to it. One thing that I did occur to me was to put a filter in there for published versus unpublished. I know that a lot of collectors don't, they only want to see published pieces, right? They don't care about con sketches or commissions. And so I'm thinking of either a checkbox or something, to include, or no, it's probably got to be a drop menu where it's including all published and unpublished, and you pick and choose one or the other. But that was a comment that came up for Comic Art Live in the search. We had omitted having that as a filter in there, and everybody was upset, of course, but they didn't tell me until after Comic Art Live was over. And I wholeheartedly agree, because when I'm doing a lot of my sorts, I'm usually looking for one or the other, and usually not both, unless it's really generic searching that I'm doing on CAF. So that really was all the things that I wanted to cover. Like I said, if there's data out there that you think that I should be pulling for other reports, or that you guys would be interested in learning about, please let me know, because again, I tend to just I think about CAF in the way that in the way I use it, but I know everybody kind of uses the site a little bit differently, and I'm always open to doing new work on CAF that I think is valuable. And with that in mind, there's actually something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And so I'm going to throw this out there, and again, you guys can comment about it, or you can email me. But I've been wanting to add 2 fields in one way or another to our adding and editing of artwork on CAF that I think would be really beneficial. And one would be the ability to assign a genre. It might be a little bit more complicated than that, where you can't do it as a drop menu. Maybe it has to be a pick list of some kind, because you could have a Western, it could even be a science fiction Western, right? For all we know. But I think, being able to sort the artwork by genre would be a really cool thing. And the other one, now at first I thought about doing it kind of in the way comic books are classified, Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern. But I was actually thinking more along the lines of doing something that was more of a by year search. Like if your artwork was made in 1982, you would assign it to the 1980 to 1989. That would be a drop menu to pick. Or if it was a convention sketch from done in the 1990s, you would pick the 1990 to 1999, and that would just give you a different way to look at things, and it would be super beneficial on the published work. Because if you really only wanted to, just show me all the published work from this age range, and make that part of the search criteria, I think that would be pretty cool. And the drawback, of course, is how do you do that to all the artworks in your gallery? I think and so if this had merit, and if there were any other things that I'm not thinking about that would have merit, I mean, if I was going to do it, I'd probably want to do it all at one time. But if we were to do it, I think what I would probably also add would be a way to mass update those criteria, like per gallery room. Probably it wouldn't be something where you'd have everything in your gallery itself, because some people have 1,000 pieces in their gallery. I don't think I can show you a 1,000 artworks on a page with two pick lists on them that you've got to assign and then make it work right. But by gallery room, I think we can do that. So give it some thought, because I really think that those two fields at the very least would add a lot of value to CAF. And, again, just make the site a little bit more friendly and a better resource as well for people who are, doing searches, because you can't do that today. And I really do think that the more than genre, the age range would be the first thing on my list. I thought that, because I think when Bashara relaunched his nostalgic investment site, I thought that was, he had this really great advanced search on the side. And I believe that, and along with things like price range, were in there. And I looked at that and I thought, man, that's what we need on CAF. But in part, we really can't, because the whole idea of going back and editing things. So I would say give it some thought. It's not something we're going to jump on in the next month or two. It would probably be something that we'd be looking at doing later, probably say May, June. Ted's mentioning, and just like I was thinking, not sure about the genre, but definitely date range. Yeah, to me, the date range would be really, really awesome, because I can just see that across the board. Wouldn't it be great to actually go in and have me go and update all the dealer sites too, and make that as an extra drop menu? So when you're searching for artwork from people that I work with, if you only want to look at work from the 70s, we got it. Now, Anthony would probably kill me, because he's got 28,000 pieces of artwork that he'd have to potentially reassign. But the feature would be incredible for buyers, because again, it's back to the searching concept. When you go to Anthony's site, or anybody's, Albert's, doesn't matter. You're just plugging in keywords, and I can tell you that because we've programmed them, most of the sorts default to date. So you're seeing the newest stuff first. And, in many cases, we don't have too many different sort options. We don't even have a sort to kick the sold items out, as you know. That's something that Albert and I are going to be working on when we do his site redesign. And here, Larry mentions that he likes the genre more than the age range. So that's why I think both have a lot of merit. But it comes back to, everybody uses the site in different ways, and they have different objectives. Like, genres can be cartoons, and they could be, like I said, science fictions, westerns, fantasy, superhero, crime. And these are things, if you think about it, aren't things that necessarily people would put in their titles and or in their descriptions. And most people don't search on descriptions in the advanced search, so they're really only searching on titles. So if you're looking for criminal related artwork, you're not going to get it if you didn't have the option, or have something like a tag like that you could put on pieces. Because once that's done, and I can tell you, this came out of my working on that IX Online site. They asked me to put tags in there, and what they used the tags were for genres. And then what we were able to do was we were able to show a page of those with a count beside it that was a link essentially to a search that showed you just those pieces. And then when you got into that, it was real easy to filter by price, omit, or only on a different price range. And, when I saw that, I was like, damn, why the hell didn't I think of that? So, like you say, crime, horror, comedy. So, it all makes sense. It really does make sense. So, we're definitely looking into it. But I would say, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to make a change like that on the add, edit, art page on CAF, if there was anything else that people felt we should potentially include, give it some thought. It's definitely going to be in the queue, programming queue by April. So we do have a bit of time to think about it. But I'm sure you would all agree that at the very least, the date range thing would be fantastic if I could push it over to the dealers. Definitely the dealers that deal in vintage artwork. So probably when I work on Albert's site, that's going to be one of the things that I include in there. And I'll have to come up with a way for him to also mass update, his date ranges, if he so chooses. If he doesn't, at the very least, we have it going forward. I think he might see an advantage to going in and doing it as well. Once his users start, doing filters on date ranges versus, just going in and, helter skelter and trying to find artwork for sale. So a lot to think about. And again, poke around on that search page, and if there's anything you feel that should be added outside of the published unpublished filter, which I'll definitely put in there, let me know. And again, any thoughts on other things that we can do to extract data from the site and omit things from searches. I'll tell you, one of the things that I do get asked a lot about, and I've never done it, and I didn't do it for lots of different reasons. It's back to me being it's not even being complacent. I just, I don't want to feel like I'm doing anything negative to people I work with. But one of the things I get requested a lot that I think we should add into to the site is the ability to filter out people from probably not only the classifieds, but primarily the dealer search. So if you don't want to see eBay results in there, just tick a box and kick them out. You don't want to see them. If you don't want to see Albert's results, check it off. Kick them out. I always felt like, because I'm working with most of those people, that it wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't the right thing to make not show their artwork. But at the end of the day, the people who use CAF are as much my clients as the dealers that I work with, and that's a feature that I do get asked about a lot. And if I were to move anything up the chain, like the comments question or that, I think that omitting dealers would be, or places, because dealers aren't just art dealers. We, like I said, we have eBay in there and Heritage. I import, I do imports for Comic Connect. So I think it would make it a lot more interesting, especially say you really were only wanted to search for vintage artwork, and you wanted to refine your search and only include Panel Page, Ramita Man, Albert, trying to think of everybody I work with, Pete Koch's site. You only want to search the guys that have vintage artwork, so it doesn't get any mixed in modern artwork pieces in your search. It just makes sense. And so, yeah, I think that you're going to see that feature definitely added when we do our big updates. And Mickey has chimed in that he likes both age and genre. Good. I think they both make a lot of sense. And whether people take the time to go back and reassign stuff, I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be up to them. If I make it easy enough, I think it will definitely be a big benefit to the site. And again, it might be something that I even add over to, if I add date range to the dealers, I might as well add genre too. And if they don't use it, I don't care. But if they do, it just provides more data for us when we commit dealer searches for you on CAF. And that holds true with our keyword emails, your want list emails, everything. So it tends to be true that the more data we have, the better off we are. And it's time for some updates. And so again, you guys have I'd say a couple months. I did tell Albert I'm going to be working on his site before the end of February. So you can keep that in mind. Albert has a huge list of things that he wants me to do. And I think that anything we can add to that list, because, Albert's kind of always been, believe it or not, he has been the guy that blazes the trail with me as far as updating the dealer admins. He's always throwing curveballs at me with what he wants his site to do. Even though it doesn't look a lot different on the outside, his admin is incredibly different. And, he's definitely, he's really run it as a really well-run business. And so hats off to him, because he's pushed me harder than anybody else. But anyways, not going to keep you any longer. It's Friday evening. I hope everybody, has a great evening and a great weekend. Sunday, I didn't mention this, but I'll be doing another one of those Comic-Con things with Anthony. He's in New Jersey again, set up at noon. I'll probably hang out with him for about an hour on a live stream. And I don't know, he hasn't talked to me about how many people we're going to be bringing in to the live stream chat with him, that I'll facilitate, or how many people are going to be there with him at the show. But definitely tune in for that. He did tell me he was bringing some new artwork that he's going to show. It won't be done quite like the last one, but it should, should be fun. It's something to do, right? He said it's going to be an hour, so it'll be over before any playoff football game starts. So anybody who's got that on their mind, we can get a little con experience out of the way first, and then enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. And again, don't forget about the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday live streams next week. And I have been editing for like the last month now. I did 4 hours of interview with the gentleman who owned the Comic Arts Gallery in New York back in the 70s. And it's kind of a mistake. I put 4 hours is a lot of video to go through to condense into what's practically going to be a 1 hour documentary, but it's definitely going to be worth it. It's a really great interview from top to bottom. His experiences with Bernie Wrightson, Jeff Jones, and Mike Kaluta and Barry Smith are, there's a lot of good stories in there. It's just trying to piece together 4 hours of commentary. It's hard. You got to rewatch these things over and over again. That's why I like live interviews, like I did with Kenneth. You have a good weekend too, Kenneth. It's so much easier to do these things live because any mess up you make don't matter. We can't take it back. But when you do a recording like that, it's brutal. So I've got probably 3 or 4 more hours of editing on that. And if I can get it done, I'd probably want to debut it either next Friday or the following Monday. And definitely encourage everybody to see it because it is fun. And I've got another similar interview that I'm going to do, but I'm going to try to do that one a little bit better where I don't have to do so much darn editing, but it will be an offline documentary type thing that I put together. Another more historical thing, as you all know, I mean, that was when I started doing these live streams, it was because I wanted to try to get back and record a lot of things from history and try to talk to the people who were there. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. A lot of that, as we interview more newer collectors and people who maybe been in the hobby for 10 years, some of these other ones, I think we're going to end up just doing as these, edited documentaries after the fact. So it's been fun. I really am trying to make it kind of rockumentary feel. And I think it's sort of got that vibe. I'll definitely do better on the next one. But again, you're going to like seeing it when it rolls out. So again, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again. And I'm looking forward to any feedback you have on any of those topics that we discussed. And, again, please plug away at that search and tell me if there's anything you want me to add other than what we've discussed. All right. Take care. See you next Tuesday.